It's time to jump into the country music time machine. We're celebrating the decades of country music history. I'm your host, Kevin Chase. We start at the beginning, 1960. The 1960s, an incredible decade for country music and history in general, from the assassination of President Kennedy and his brother.
My thanks to all of you, and now it's on to Chicago, and let's win there.
The murder of a civil rights icon.
And he's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over, and I've seen the promised land.
But we also had good news. We beat the Russians and put the first man on the moon in 1969.
The Eagle has landed.
In 1960, life was much different than it is today. A new house would cost you around $12,000. Gas, about 25 cents a gallon, and you could drive home in a brand new Ford Falcon for around $2,000. President Kennedy was elected. The Russians got angry and shot down a U-2 spy plane, and Harper Lee's classic American novel, To Kill a Mockingbird, was published. Despite the loss of innocence that would come with war, assassinations, and space travel, we had some great country music to listen to in 1960. Some notable events from that year include Loretta Lynn getting her first record deal with Zero Records on February 1st. Her highest charting song on the Billboard charts that year was I'm a Honky Tonk Girl, which hit number 14. On March 29th, one of Nashville's most famous honky-tonk bars opened up, Tootsie's Orchid Lounge. Located right behind the Ryman Auditorium, Tootsie's saw many future country legends walk through its doors, including Willie Nelson, Patsy Cline, Waylon Jennings, Roger Miller, and more. On August 27th, the Louisiana Hayride put on its final performance. It's probably best known for Elvis shaking his hips there back in the 1950s. A big happy birthday to Lionel Cartwright, Colin Ray, Amy Grant. They were all born that year. And in 1960, a future Duke boy was born. Happy birthday to John Snyder. In 1960, we lost some industry icons in country music. A.P. Carter of the original Carter family and the pioneer in country music died from heart disease. And how can we forget the singing fisherman, Johnny Horton, died in a car accident at only 35 years old.
In 1814 we took a little trip along with Colonel Jackson down the mighty Mississippi. We took a little bacon and we took a little beans, and we caught the bloody British in a town in New Orleans. We fired our guns and the British kept a-coming. There wasn't as many as there was a while ago. We fired once more and they began to run it on down the Mississippi to the Gulf of Mexico.
There were a few number one country songs on the Billboard charts that year. Alabama from Cowboy Copas.
I'm going back to Alabama. Now talk about you people have a whale of a time, eating up chicken and drinking their wine. I'm on the way.
Ferlin Husky spent 10 weeks at number one.
The snow white dove, he sends his sweet love, a sign from above, on the wings of a dove.
The velvet voice of Jim Reeves had a number one with this one.
Put your sweet lips a little closer to the phone. Let's pretend that we're together all alone. I'll tell the man to turn the jukebox way down low, and you can tell your friend there with you, he'll have to go.
We got a bunch of great cowboy country songs in 1960. We headed to El Paso with Marty Robbins.
Out in the West Texas town of El Paso, I fell in love with a Mexican girl.
And what was the biggest hit of 1960? That one came from Hank Locklin.
Please help me, I'm falling in love with you. it's a door to temptation. Don't let me walk through. Turn away from me, darling. I'm begging you to. Please help me, I'm falling in love with you.
Well, that's all for 1960. It was a great year for country music. Coming up in 61, we saw the reemergence of George Jones on the country charts. Patsy Cline started falling to pieces, and big band Jimmy Dean crossed the charts with his biggest hits. So we'll see you in 1961. Until then, take us out, Marty. Bye-bye.